and he started going through probably puberty. We had a situation where he was given some ketamine when, during the procedure. Yes. And so it kind of reset everything that we had been doing and all the progress we've been making. And like a lot of people with severe autism, regression is a major part of the story.
Yep.
So when Caden started having meltdowns, they just increased in intensity. They increased in how often they were happening. He's always been a headbanger, quick to bite himself, pull his skin and stuff. But now he started hurting other people, kicking us.
And at a later age, that's kind of odd.
Yeah.
Because Bubba, he's aggressive towards others, but it's always been that way.
Yeah.
And so for Caden, it just recently.
And here's just a bit of science that you guys don't know. That again, the problem really with autism is you have something called an anandamide. It plugs into CB1. It's what THC duplicates, but plugs into CB1, and that's how you kind of control your body-mind function. Autistic people don't have enough anandamide, right? Mm-hmm. Guess what spikes in every single mammal, human, right when you hit puberty? The day you hit puberty, within 24 hours, you have a spike of anandamide that he doesn't have.
Yeah. Okay.
So again, that's going to cause some goofiness to, because you spike in an anandamide, because you have to change so many things about your body. I mean, you're going through the biggest changes that you'll kind of ever go through, like right at puberty. And so you have to have all that control, right? Makes sense. But he didn't have it. Now he's got something else, which
and I think too, like if I hadn't been in the cannabis community and I hadn't been doing all this different research myself, going to a doctor, they wouldn't have explained it that way. They wouldn't have looked at it like that. They don't treat autism for autism. They treat all of the outward symptoms of autism. And that just causes so many more problems and complications because you're already dealing with something intense and your brain is firing off and then you're adding all these chemicals to it.
Oh yeah.
So when we started going through this, we've been doing really well, and he's been on. He had his cards since July of the year before.
Can I ask you a question? Because again, a lot of people. A lot of you guys here in Oklahoma can treat with THC. So I want to kind of talk a little bit about this because it is. I know we're kind of trying to move because we want something that's going to work for everyone. We want something that's going to work for kids who get drug tested. We want something that's going to work nationally, all over the world, right? So that's what we're trying to build. But THC gives us some valuable data. Yeah. So when both you guys have tried THC with your situations, so tell me, and again, I think this is important to describe how it might have stabilized things and things might have taken a little uptick, but it wasn't consistent, right? Yeah. And a lot of that's because of terpenes. Yeah, but you might kind of, and I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I've definitely seen way more consistency adding in the focus with the THC, like because there is consistency there. With the THC, it's touch and go. You don't know, and then it might be a lot of progress one day, but then the next day it falls back to what it was before. It's a temporary fix.
Yes,
right. And it's the terpene profiles of what you're actually the THC that you're using. That's the variability that no one understands right now. But we kind of understand that a little bit.
A lot of times when you don't know and you're asking questions and all of these groups and things like that, the suggestion is the strain, this, that. But there's never really been a talk about adding anything other than CBD. And I think that is where the importance comes in, that people need to understand that there is medicine in place. There is medicine in our food and things like that. And if we start looking at it that way, it's going to give us a better overall picture.
Most people don't realize this, but you bring up a really good point. Where does pharma, get their drugs from? Right? They don't sit in a lab and come up with I think I'll build a pain relief drug, and that's not the way it works. How it works is this shaman in South America, came up with this vine that works, right? And so they'll go find the vine, and then they'll find the guy that works really good in there, and then they'll duplicate that molecule, and that's their brilliant idea. Yeah, so they synthesize basically nature. That's what 90% of
Right.
pharma is.
Yeah.
It comes from plants anyway.
Yeah.
It just, and as we understand this more and more, oh my,
Mhm.
situations like yours will not,
Right.
happen
I mean,
anymore.
honestly, and with Caden, like I was saying, we ended up getting together in a comment section.
Yeah.
And I think it was Dr. Bailey's video, and he was talking about autism and cannabis.
Yeah.
And at that point, when you're a parent and you're trying to do everything for your kid, it's not crisis. It's not just a crisis mode. Like you're a man. You are just it's so easy for people to say that you're crazy because you're just everywhere. I
You're
was
literally
in everywhere.
Desperate.
And I was just asking questions everywhere.
Desperation.
And
for your
I was
child.
just trying to be as loud as I could to have somebody be like, here's an idea. But if you don't do that, it's not going to come to you.
Mhm.
Like,
Right.
So when I was commenting, I think it was, I don't know if it was GnuPharma or TrueMedx, but it wasn't you. It was one of the companies that was like, hey, send us a message. I think we have something that could work for you.
Yeah.
And so, trying to focus, and I think that's another thing that resonates with autism is we have tried so many different things. We have spent so much money
Yeah.
on different products.
Mhm.
And it was nice to be able to try something for an extended period of time and see that it works.
But that it continues to work.
That it
it's
continues to work.
So can you, and this is important, I think, can you guys compare and contrast a little bit about, maybe, I'm not wanting to ding on THC, but just THC will work because again, it mimics this,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
But how is this working over in the way that I describe it, but this may not be the best way to describe it because you guys live it every day, but it, from the graphs, I guess, because I'm a math guy, I'm cognitive up, behavioral sort of aberrant behavior down.
Yeah.
So you're seeing things that you've never
Oh,
seen before?
absolutely. And see, and our kids are the same but different.
so much.
And so
So much.
Yeah.
The piano story is what, and the
Right.
the singing story, the piano story are stories that I use a lot.
well, and their journeys are different too because Baba never had pharmaceuticals and Kaden did have pharmaceuticals. And I do feel like a lot of that first year with THC was repairing him from all
The
of the
pharmaceuticals.
pharmaceutical damage. So
Yeah.
that is why when we did THC alone, it did work for an extended period of time, and then we hit a wall. And then I added CBD, and
There's
that
always a
worked.
wall.
Yes,
There's always a wall.
and so when I added CBD with THC, that worked for a short period of time. And what I didn't understand until meeting you and getting the science and learning about the endocannabinoid system is he does have an imbalance in his system.
Right.
So when you feed one part of it, yes, you're going to see improvements, but then the other parts are still imbalanced.
It's like a
Or
mobile.
they're going more down because
Yeah.
this is so far
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
So when you take the combination of the THC, the CBD, the CBG, it has just made a regimen that has not, I haven't seen results with anything like this before.
Near as consistent.
Yes,
That
absolutely.
has remained consistent.
Where we haven't seen the regression.
There hasn't been a wall.
Yes.
There hasn't been a wall.
I
And,
mean-
and in the past, even with THC, you guys have sort of seen this up and down. We make a little progress and everything falls apart. You don't know
Yeah.
why. And I think that's when I look out at other THC groups, before that's a really common
Yeah.
thing that we know it works because it's mimicking, anandamide, but it's not the whole answer. You have to do again, GnuPharma, we have science around doing this, we have patents around doing this. We've been talking about a model of human function for 4 or 5 years. We work with the University of Mississippi, so this isn't like,
Yeah.
it's real science.
Yeah.
But in this model, it's looking like you have to kind of do two things, with autism. And so there's a kind of a double-edged, therapy, if you will, or I can't really say therapy that indicates medicine, double-edged formula that we have to kind of approach this with.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and if you look at the statistics of autism too, I'm a little disappointed that more people aren't looking into it and focusing on it. Because, when King was born in 2007, it was 1 in 112.
Right.
Today, it's like 1 in 54 or 52. It's 1 in 52 now. And I read on the CDC, they said by 2030, by year 2030, it will be 1 in 2 of every boy born will have autism.
No, it won't.
If we,
No, it won't.
if we
we
do
let,
something about it.
if we don't
I sure
intervene.
hope we
don't.
But we're gonna intervene.
I
And
sure hope
that's not because autism is a bad thing. Autism has shaped my life in such a unique and amazing way, and I would not be the parent that I am without it.
Can I tell you guys a
Yeah.
story just about
Oh,
me?
absolutely.
So I'm absolutely on the spectrum, and I'm
Mhm.
autistic. I'm not severely autistic, but I'm definitely autistic. And it all my life I've known I'm different, right?
Mhm.
Which has been now I embrace it. Now I
Yeah,
really love
yeah.
it. But most of and I never understood, why. And it just like I can't socially interact, the way normal
Mhm.
people do. Like,
Yeah.
always kind of the guy, had a lot of friends, but no one ever really invited me over very much. You know what I mean? I'm like, what's what's wrong with me? But what I began to realize is that I think different, than most people, and my brain works different than most people. That threatens some people, or they're uncomfortable with that, right? And I'm kind of always going.
Yeah.
But I had to figure out that difference and then embrace that difference and understand what that was. But my gosh, it allows me a freedom in my mind that perhaps other people don't have. And so
I 100% believe that. I do
Yeah.
believe that. And my nephew is on the spectrum, and he is high functioning.
Yeah.
And I 100% believe that his mind is amazing. Like, their minds are amazing.
Just like Mackenzie.
Yes, like
well,
it's
and
just,
Wadel, my hope is, again, I bought Caden sitting in this chair talking about all the stuff that
Well,
he
and that's
discovered,
the goal, that's
and
the
blah,
goal
blah,
and the
right?
reason why we're doing this show and these episodes is because we want people to see the progress and the benefit of it.
Yeah.
And if they have a problem or a situation, reach out,
Yeah.
get some help, contact you guys.
Yeah. Oh, and let's talk about, so again, I don't want to,
Yeah,
but
you're good, you're good.
we'll do this, we're doing this sort of in other situations too, but
Mhm.
let's talk about kind of how we iterated, because I think that's important. The medicine package that we're using really hasn't changed. Okay. So, how we're going at things and so what we're using to go at the things that we're going at hasn't really changed. But the delivery has changed. And
Yeah.
you guys were really important in that, because remember the syrup?
Yeah.
I feel like it goes both ways. So like you're just as important as spreading the word as you guys are as in helping us. Like
Absolutely.
When you find something that works, it's literally there's not a feeling like it, because here in Oklahoma, everything's still so new.
Yeah.
So for parents, it's try whatever you can until you find something that works, and then see how long it works.
Yeah.
And spend a lot of money doing it.
Yeah. And it's scary
It's
too.
scary,
Because if you've got sort of a somewhat stabilized situation, it's taken you a long time to get there.
Exactly.
You don't want to upset the apple cart,
Exactly.
So, and I understand, it's funny, you guys are real pioneers, for doing this. And I met with again, I'm not going to say who it is, but a physician, who has a child, that's autistic, and they're, married to another physician, Harvard internist, stays at home to try to help everything, so it just, there's a lot we can do to help, so that's exciting. But so let's talk. I guess everybody kind of knows about you guys' specific situations.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that was why we did the OKannamoms, was to share, not just the medicine that we're doing, but the general stories. Because autism is such a hard life.
It is. And just to honestly, even to just jump on a group and feel like you have that little bit of support.
Yeah.
When you don't feel like you have any at all. It can be so much to somebody.
And I think a lot of people don't realize the severity when we talk about the spectrum. There's not just a spectrum of autism, there's a spectrum within the spectrum.
Yeah.
So, you have the severe kids, and they are on their own spectrum.
Yeah.
So my son, who's nonverbal and severe, is completely different than your son, who's nonverbal and severe. There's some kids who are nonverbal and they're completely compliant, and they just go with the flow, and they are such good, and they can sit down and they could do this show right now.
Yeah.
Our kids are not that way. Our kids are not compliant, and our kids are going to lay down in the middle of the road and not move if that's what they want to do in that moment, and they're boys, they're big boys, and we
they're
cannot
strong.
force
They're
them
strong.
to do that. So we need recognition, we need people to understand what these parents are dealing with and what we're dealing with, so we can have some compassion, we can have some understanding, but also we can have the research that we need to say, hey, this is working, look into it, help us do this, help us fund it, because there's a better way. And we have been throwing pharmaceuticals at these kids the moment they walk into a doctor's office.
The moment they're born.
They're
The moment they're born.
Yes,
with
exactly.
a vitamin K shot as soon as they're born.
I mean, it's a lot. And
and let's talk that, because I think this is important, because there are people going through what you guys have gone through, and the way that, again, the way that we'll treat this 5 years from now is not the way that we treat it now. We don't understand it right now. Physicians don't understand it. No harm, no foul. They weren't taught anything about this. They don't understand, and they don't understand where it's dysregulated. So if you have a really good physician who does understand a little bit about autism, they're going to treat that with, and again, Ritalin, Adderall, and
Risperdal.
Blood pressure medications is usually what they start with.
Yeah, and the clonidine's kind of the wrong way. Okay.
Oh, I can tell you, everything been on. I mean, clonidine is crazy.
But the uppity things probably will help. They might increase the bad behavior, but they're probably going to help with the cognition. Okay. The down things are going to suppress the behavior, but they're also just going to dampen the cognition.
And also, in my opinion, it totally masks their personality while temporary fixing that behavior.
Yes. And the problem we ran into was the new issues we had with Caden when he was on pharmaceuticals. It was so hard to decipher what is coming from his autism and what is the side effect
of the pharmaceutical.
Right.
Because he was given Strattera, and that made him constipated.
Yeah.
And then you run into issues of how do you give a kid a pill? How do you hide this? How do you medicate them? And then that experience becomes traumatic for them because they don't want
traumatic for you.
Yeah,
it really does.
And it's hard.
Yes,
and I can tell you, since we've been doing the focus, I've spent a lot less time crying in my shower.
That's good. That's good.
It's a weight, because that's what we want. We just want to help our children. And I know moms I feel for them when they tell me they carry their kids' diagnosis paperwork around with them in their purse.
Because people call the police on them for trying to get them in the vehicle and in public when they're fighting back.
We had a deal at a patient drive, and again, at the patient drive, this mom, because I was teaching, and so somebody said, take your child, go see Chip, talking about autism, which is great. But she couldn't get him in the room. She was
probably so desperate too. She just really wanted to do it.
And so, I got her out. So we got everything worked out outside and everything. And so she's, has focus, and he's improving and all that. Yeah. So it's really good. But I just literally, saw that 2 weeks ago.
There's those moments where you see that, and it's not just seeing it on, like, you can feel it. It's palpable when you're in that moment and you're dealing with that situation. So to have somebody reach out and say, I'm going to help you with this, I can do this. That in and of itself is like,
well, we got this. We got this. And the other thing that we can, that's fine. And the other thing that we can do, it seems like, and you guys kind of helped me with this, who I think the next step, at least with this and with you guys and the story, because it is working, and we have to have now clinical data from your therapists, and so that's real clinical data on this product, improving function and all that. Yeah, and so that's a big thing. But where do we go next with that? How do we, OKannamoms is a good platform. How do we plug that? Do we make that a nonprofit? Do we make you guys a nonprofit and then really go at autism through that, just like an Autism
Honestly,
Speaks?
that's kind of our goal. That's what we would love to see happen, because the whole reason why we did our page, and all of this right now is out of our pocket.
I know,
We're not making any money from OKannamoms. We just want to help people,
Yeah.
because we know what it's like to be desperate.
Yeah.
And every child deserves a chance to be the best that they can be.
Absolutely.
To their ability. And I think the more we can talk about this and the more we can help people, the more voices we get behind this, we can actually get people in charge to pay attention and start getting it covered.
So,
that's the goal.
Oh, yeah, it's
You know?
absolutely. And I think you're absolutely right, is to get it covered by insurance.
Yes.
Because again, if you're using THC, it's expensive. If you're using these products, again, they're not covered by insurance, so it can get expensive. Absolutely, you're absolutely right. So what nonprofit would you say? Autism Speaks, should we go, us and partner with the OKannamoms or not?
I love Autism Speaks.
Okay.
I'm all for
Autism
Autism
they were
Speaks.
here in Oklahoma to do
and-
the ABA insurance.
Yeah.
And again, we're just talking now, sorry. But on Autism Speaks, I had a kind of a serendipitous thing come another way, and that's our science advisor, GnuPharma. He's a PharmD, PhD, script trained, blah, 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 major, NIH researcher at University of Mississippi. When he was training at Scripps is where you go, it's like the Harvard of research. So you go, train at Scripps, right? So he was training at Scripps, but it's in San Diego. And I think that him and his wife live next door to principals of Autism Speaks or something.
Go knock on the door for us.
And then they will do grants. And so what I
And they
think,
will.
and I think what we should do is approach them with a grant to get you guys started, and potentially a grant to help us make stuff. But again, I think it would be better to launch the informational part of this back end of education and medicine and natural products for autism.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does that?
And something's got to change. I mean, because look at the numbers increasing. Look
The
at the
numbers.
medicine.
Oh,
What we're doing is not working.
yeah, but Autism Speaks, we get a nonprofit involved. And
Yes.
again, I'm not my first rodeo doing this, so I do know how to do this. So again, we can go to lawmakers as long as we're in a good, nice, commercial kind of nonprofit, and we're really showing results, which we will. But we'll go to lawmakers and we'll get this at least in like what's the Medicaid, that it's the sooner care. Yeah, at least in sooner care.
Right.
I mean, and we can. It's possible. That's the thing. We can do it. And I would love. That's what we want to put our efforts for. And that's what we want to do, because. And that's why we brought people to you, and we started the show, because we don't just want to highlight how well our children are doing.
Yeah.
We want to see other kids doing the same. We want parents to have this option.
We want your family to have relief, like we have relief. Just like with can we talk about the one that you made for Jackie? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So real quick, it just because we gotta be real careful what we say here.
Okay.
So when you if you have a condition like epilepsy or you have seizures, in my mind, that is due to a dysregulation in the endocannabinoid system, something called voltage-gated sodium channels. Okay. So one potential strategy that you could potentially use would be to try to regulate those channels. And natural products in some cases will help regulate those channels. So almost everything in this, and this is a new product called Calm. So all the natural products that are in here have studies that show that they help with these voltage-gated sodium channels. But in a similar way that we kind of know with you guys, we know Jackie from many years ago.
I love hearing that, because we didn't know that when we were like, hey, can you guys help her?
I didn't. Oh yeah, I know that.
I didn't know that.
So it's kind of cool to have them, research this now, and we're right kind of in a position where we're getting good results with our model, obviously. So that's a good time. Yeah.
I'm excited.
So I guess the long and the short of it, I set all that up so that I don't get in trouble and we don't, get the FDA police. But yeah, you can tell, and this is, well, you can tell why we did it.
This is why, I like you guys, and you remind me so much of the new type of compounding pharmacy.
Yes.
Because you have a problem and somebody brings it to you, and you're excited to tackle it, and you
And
already have all
research
the
it, and-
science behind it,
And I love it.
and
yeah.
it's natural, and that's how, like, that is just what I'm excited about with it. Like, and having you guys do something like this that we can take to her that isn't, gonna get anybody in trouble if it was in a different state or this and that. Like, if it
Right.
does work and you do see benefits, somebody in Texas can use it just like somebody in Oklahoma or
Brittany,
Kansas.
Or
Brit-
it's not so strong
Yeah.
that it's going to
wipe her out.
alter. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
honestly, wipe her out.
Yeah.
It's all natural. It's not something so strong. It's just gonna, and you don't have to really be so careful as you would with an RSO or something with
Right.
the high THC in it.
And Brittany and Kirk, risked their
They-
livelihood, and they were a part of really
They risked
the
so
Openness for Health, story and the whole push for medical marijuana. And then we just sort of, after the past, everybody kind of went their separate ways or whatever. So it's good that they're coming back, but they risked life and limb, for
Absolutely.
Jackie driving up there to get oil and all that. So,
But that's what you do as a parent.
yeah, that's what
When
you
you're
do
in
as a parent.
And that's
Exactly.
what a lot of people don't understand is when you are in a situation where you don't have options, you don't have a choice of life or death,
Right,
what do you do?
right. Well, and if you've gone through all these pharma options, and there's a place and time for pharma. I was in the emergency room. I was in an emergency room. I'm like, golly, this is the place for pharma, man. Because if you're minutes away from death, and the doctor's got to make a decision, and boom, give you the right thing, and
Yeah,
come
medicine
back.
is good.
Yeah. But it's not the answer to all things.
It's not the
And
answer
it
to all
shouldn't be a
ailments.
daily,
No.
everyday occurrence. It's when you're
It's
truly
crisis.
sick and you
Yeah.
need that antibiotic, or you need this. We should be teaching our kids how to build up their immune system, how to better themselves to where you can make your life longer by giving it what it
Well,
needs.
and that's the thing. So children are sometimes born with weakened immune system.
Yes.
And then you have a baby in the hospital, and the first thing they do is they start injecting them with vaccination, and they don't test your child to see if your child has a weakened immune system or not.
Right.
So you have no idea what kind of reaction your child is going to have.
Right.
I also feel like, we should have ways to better educate people in our immune systems, but also better educate the medical field and proper testing and such to make sure that these children aren't have weakened immune systems or compromised by their immune systems. Because if you see a baby with cancer, or you see a baby with another ailment like that,
They get a different vaccine.
they
schedule.
get a different treatment completely when they are at a
Because their
medical
immune
facility because their immune
Really?
compromised. Their schedule is completely taken apart and broken up into actual, like, because the MMR, it has like
Yeah.
30 different doses in it, or so they break everything up and they space it
So
out
it's not
into actual
Overloading your body.
exactly. But when a baby's
Did this
born,
happen to both your children?
my child was definitely
Because we have different. This is why I love
Vaccine.
Kristen, because we have similar stories. but
Yeah.
Different.
he was definitely vaccine injured.
Okay.
Bubba was
And Caden was birthed.
So no.
No.
See,
No.
Caden, for
Okay.
me, I never correlated it with vaccines until I met Krista and I started reading more into it. And my thing is I do feel like there is a gene. It's the MTHFR, I think, gene,
Uh-huh.
and they are finding that children with this gene mutation are the ones developing autism later on. And so my thought base, and this is all just mom theory, from experience and what I've read, I honestly feel like if we were testing babies for this gene mutation first,
and testing their immune
yes,
system,
and their
there would
immune
be a
system,
lot
there would be a lot
less.
less because we can treat them as immunocompromised babies and give them a different schedule. So I'm not saying vaccines are bad or don't get them.
I
this or
am.
that.
I am.
I know you guys are. But that's the great thing about different
Exactly.
Yes.
But I also don't do flu shots and I
Yeah.
don't do things like that.
But just taking the knowledge, though.
And to have that knowledge to make that decision as a parent is
Yes.
what we should be giving parents.
Yes,
You should make that decision. We should give you all of this
yes.
and say, these are what's
just say that, vaccines, and I just, the reason that I have a problem with vaccines is, again, we have a different model of how to work.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is a vaccine? Let's kind of walk that through real quick, because a lot of people don't know. A lot of people don't realize this. Okay. They really don't. So right now we're sitting here, there's bugs and microbes, and we're sitting here on Maddie's old couch. No telling where this thing's been. But it's new. No, it's brand new. but every second of every day, Krista, Maddie, Chip, we're fighting off all these bugs and bacteria and viruses with something called our immune system. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And if our immune system is healthy, we're going to have no problem doing it. If our immune system is compromised, like most of our immune systems are, we're going to be pretty susceptible to allergies, to influenzas, to COVID, to all these kind of things. So we're going to get these bugs. But once we've had them once, our immune systems understand what they are and build immunities. So what a vaccine is, it's trying to jump that process. It's giving you the thing.
A couple at a time, actually.
It's giving you rubella. It's giving you mumps. It's giving you measles to make your body defend against that. So one school of thought says, why don't we just let ourselves catch stuff and then we build natural immunities? And again, with natural immunities, we generally pass those on to our children. Okay. There's kind of a herd immunity thing, right? So it's, some of the herd are going to die off from bugs and stuff, but the strongest survive and they pass on that immunity. But if you jump that system with vaccines, we're in a weakened immune system situation, and we're not passing on the immunity to our children. In fact, we're passing on our weaker immunes to our children.
And then I feel like if people are given the option to know what their children's immune systems are like just like me,
we would have a lot less argument about it.
People would have the actual option after gaining the proper knowledge to then decide if they want to vaccinate.
So how do we get that? And real quick, because this is important. So how do we get that knowledge? And this is another thing. Again, at GnuPharma, we're working on we have a kind of I call it a drug development platform, but we can develop everything as natural products, and we can also go the FDA route. So that's kind of one thing that we do. We're also doing hard research with major universities, and the thing that we have an accepted National Science Foundation pitch for a grant around a test. Okay, so the reason, because that's what we're talking about right now, is my God, if I could measure your endocannabinoid system and how your immune system responds, now I can supplement you with things to bolster that, and so that's where all this is going.
But the problem also is that then we don't talk about the endocannabinoid system in medical school.
No, and again, and we're going to fix all that. But right now, there's very, and it's kind of a nice position for our company to be in, because it literally, we're world leaders in this, and we probably know more than a lot of people in the world. But we'll have to educate, and that's the third part of what our company does, is education. I want to go teach PhDs and MDs about what we've kind of learned here, so that they can go do their own thing. I'll tell you a cool story. University of Mississippi, again, our guy down there. So a couple of years ago, I sent him this study, and he's a world expert on blueberries. He's done, and their medical value.
I would make myself like world expert on blueberries. I love that.
So a lot of his research has been around this stuff in blueberries and how it's medicinally valuable.
They are though, Blueberries are really good.
He also did work on something called vinca alkaloids, which is, do you have periwinkles in your backyard?
Oh, I know what they are.
So you know what a periwinkle is? So this is what pharma does. Periwinkles contain something called vinca alkaloids. Vinca alkaloids are chemo. That's chemo drugs. Are vinca alkaloids that come from periwinkles or synthesized, from stuff from periwinkles. But anyway, and Dr. Colby's a drug development expert. So, but he's, blueberries and natural products is the way he comes in, and that's why we get along so well. Anyway, I sent him a study, and this was 2 years ago, about blueberries have something in them called anthocyanins. Again, I don't want to get too wrapped up in science, but they modulate the endocannabinoid system almost as perfectly as all the stuff in cannabis, the cannabinoids. Oh yeah. Yeah. And so he said about 6 months ago, he said, this study's pretty good. He said, I'm going to validate and duplicate this study and take it a little further. And he just texted me yesterday. He hardly ever sort of texts me. I mean, we have scheduled calls and stuff. Yeah, he's like, get validated out. So he said, I got endocannabinoid action everywhere.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so, that'll be a paper in 2 years, but
Right.
yeah, it's a good thing. So, and maybe not 2 years, maybe a year. I'm sure he'll write it quick. Yeah. So, and then the good news about that is that, all this stuff that we're talking about right now, it's based on this endocannabinoid science, and it can be driven into cannabis solutions, frankly, CBD solutions, frankly, natural product solutions, or real pharma solutions with real molecules. And all those are possible with kind of the science that we're and other people are laying down.
Changing the way we do medicine.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it literally in some of the classes, I have something that we call, PDR eyes. So if you're a physician, how do you look at the world? Well, you look at the world through a physician's desk reference. That's kind of your pharma model. So again, you come in, you're obese, that's going to be treated in a certain way.
Okay.
In the future, you will come in and be really looked at with, endocannabinoid system, vascular regulatory system eyes. And again, that obese person now doesn't look obese. They just look inflamed.
Yeah.
So that's, I can address that in a bunch of different ways. Yes. Yes.
I love
Yes. And if you really think about it, autism would be one of the things that would be iffy. Okay. But for the most part, most diseases are disease. Disease means dysregulation.
Yeah.
Okay. So most diseases are just the body's dysregulated. Well, what regulates your body?
Yeah. Right.
You kind of see where this could go. So can we talk about your daughter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I do. I love this story.
I would have brought her today, but she's at school today.
Okay. And will you kind of, and again, this is a kind of another product, if you will, but it's just another situation that's very extreme, where she has suffered all her life and you have suffered all her life because of this situation, that once this is understood, it's not hard to rectify.
And I don't think a lot of people realize how many are afflicted with selective mutism because it's not talked about.
Selective mutism is a thing. It's not a lot of people when I sorry, my thing went off. When I say my daughter has selective mutism, they think I'm joking. Oh yeah, most kids do. No, it's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a severe anxiety disorder. She finally started her first year of school without any anxiety attacks. Still has not had any anxiety attacks at school this year. As her junior year in high school, which honestly makes me so happy and so excited and so proud, but it also makes me so sad that for so long
She needed you every day.
but for so long she had to physically hurt to go to school, literally.
Yeah.
And several, she's on an IEP, so she would have several trips to the bathroom, the office, the counselor's office. She's sitting in the nurse's office half the day, most of her school career.
Yeah.
And she is a twin.
Yeah.
And she's an identical twin. They're mirror twins. So one's left-handed, one's right-handed.
Oh, wow.
But her twin, she has anxiety issues, but it's not really social anxiety.
Okay.
She just has some, anxiety issues. But she's always been Kerrigan's crutch. She's always talked for her growing up. They were, if Kerrigan needs something, Raina would go do it for her, So we tried their whole life. They were together some of the time, and we split them up. We do this, we do that. Therapy. She actually did pharmaceuticals for a couple of years. Nothing really quite helped. The pharmaceuticals honestly did not change the anxiety attacks whatsoever. I've seen good results in sleep, and she was more calm, but it did mask her personality.
Yeah.
And so now that she's been on the Focus Plus and the rest and relaxation, she's striving.
She even said she wanted off of her IEP.
She wants off her IEP. She
That's
wants to
awesome.
start.
And that's what keeps
She
her
doesn't
from
have-
getting called on. in
That's what
class.
keeps her from getting called on in class. That's what keeps her.
Oh, the IEP does,
Uh-huh.
and she wants to be
And
called.
that
on.
is her.
She wants to be
Yeah,
called. on in
but
class?
when she wants, but she's actually ready to start speaking in front of class.
That's. Can we get her on?
I'm totally gonna try,
Okay.
but I think we could. I mean, I
Yeah.
really
Because
do.
this is different. It's not a
This
lot of
is a
people
lot. This
looking
is
at
not
you.
school. Also.
Yeah.
But
But
also too, you guys are from a small town and your girls have had the same
Honestly,
friends for years and
we
years
have
and
been-
they act like they're just talking.
they have lived in. We have lived in
That's
Wagner.
great.
We've lived in Wagner their whole life.
Yeah.
They started preschool in Wagner. Now they're juniors in high school, and my two younger girls are sophomores.
Yeah.
So everybody in
Everybody knows
town
them.
knows who we are.
Yeah.
Their dad grew up in Wagner.
Wagner.
Their grandpa grew up in Wagner. They all graduated from Wagner. So when people are coming up to her siblings, her three sisters, junior year, and saying, "Kerrigan talking? Why is Kerrigan talking? Oh my gosh, Kerrigan's talking!" Like, you know.
You know, but I want to kind of, because I want to reel this back, because we are, you know, other moms are out there listening that probably have the same problem. And the thing that happens, and again, this is sort of this PDR eyes with a physician versus what they'll know, you know, in 4 or 5 years. But, and tell me if I'm wrong, but again, you know, probably how she was made to feel in most cases, it's honey, you know, it's never going to get better. You know, you're broken.
Well, honey, you need to push through it and figure this out.
Yeah.
You're
do
always
it.
gonna have this.
You're always
feeling.
gonna have. You're always
feel
gonna
like
feel like this. You need to work through
Yeah. And we have to
Cope.
change that.
Cope. it. You need to cope.
Oh,
You
Yeah.
need to find a way to
Yeah.
cope with.
And you know, the physicians don't, you know, they're going by their book, right? They've never seen anything like, what does my book say? So they're just saying, you know, kind of what's in the book. But it just, when we really understand how we
can
work,
feel it.
oh
Yeah.
my gosh, you know, how long did it take?
Right.
You
When
know,
you spend so many years taking your kids to school, and your daughter is literally in tears or throwing up or
Every day.
calling you every single
How
day
many
from
kids
school.
have a stomach ache and they get diagnosed with IBS or they get diagnosed with this or that, and it really is
It's
anxiety.
anxiety causing
anxiety.
it.
Yeah.
And that's
They don't
physical.
look deeper into
That
it.
comes out physical.
Yeah, it really does.
And anxiety is a really easy thing to regulate. Okay.
Yeah.
So most people, and I don't know why, but we think we should, you know, do this, you know, emotionally and kind of cognitively. And we kind of, you know, that's normal for whatever reason. Well, it's normal because we're all broke. And we're not broke. I mean, we're just dysregulated. Yeah. And so again, when we really understand that we shouldn't do this, we should be
Right.
all up here, you know, our normal place should be a happy, serene,
I'm
calm,
so sick of hearing just deal with it, just cope with
loving,
it. No, we don't
you
have
know,
to though.
all that, right? So
We
our
can fix it.
absolutely our natural place should be there, and then we should just, you know, little pingies
Well,
off
yeah,
that.
it's never gonna be.
It's never gonna be perfect.
Yeah, we're
But-
always gonna have a little ups and
But
downs,
you
but you
shouldn't
should.
have to feel so.
Yeah.
Just stuck
Every day.
every single day. It's debilitating. It is debilitating.
To the point where you can't speak, and
Can't
oh
speak
my gosh.
physically.
But if you look at sort of, well, what's dysregulating in their cannabinoid system? Well, okay, let's put some resources there, and it works.
Right.
And that's just crazy, right? But it's not. It works.
It works.
Yes.
And she has not had an anxiety attack this school year.
Yeah.
And she loves school.
See,
Yeah.
and I didn't
And
really
she-
meet her until she started taking it. So
Yeah.
I don't know her as that.
And she's
you know,
happy though. Like,
anxiety
she-
kid. Yeah, every time I see her, she's just.
in the mornings, like she sometimes some mornings, like I have 4 teenage daughters, we're all crying. Like, because that's the way it is. But like on
I
the
grew up around sisters.
on the real though, like to see her like okay with going to school and just still happy and not so upset and not just physically mutilated.
It's so cool. And
It's beautiful.
on the back end, and just to know you guys and to know the difference that, you know, we've made
Yeah.
in your life is just, that means the world you
Right.
know,
Well,
to me.
before when we first met, I wouldn't even get an email in the car anytime and
Yeah.
the other day. And
Caden came in.
he did, and he hung out with you, and he looked.
I didn't get a picture. Dang it.
I know.
Yeah, but he looked me right in the
Yeah.
eye, and we, I talked to him and I could tell he was listening to what I said, you know, so yeah,
So it's the little
that's really
things.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've noticed a lot of little things with Kaden.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
Like
And Kaden,
and
Caden
Mackenzie
is our really the longest, you know, running case, if you will.
Mhm.
And if Caden keeps cognitively improving,
Right.
guess what? Probably everyone else will keep cognitively improving.
And his progression is just
Yeah.
like
and
And Bubba's
I
second.
mean, it's just been
yes, definitely.
amazing.
All of theirs really, but like I think I obviously notice all the small things about my kids, but when I'm around Kaden and like he comes up to me and engages with me, or I
grab your arm to take you out
to
go
take me,
swinging.
yeah, like
Yeah.
and you know it wasn't like that at first, like
Yeah.
and then now you get to actually see that and feel that it's a really good feeling.
Well,
It's like his personality is going to.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, Bub's been on THC for years now.
Yeah.
So he kind of had some healing going on and stuff, you know, this whole
Longer,
time.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he wasn't on pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
But I don't know, just to see another kid also just and it's happening so fast. Like
Mhm.
he's just
and with
it
Mackenzie,
amazes me.
too,
It's
like,
beautiful.
And Mackenzie,
she's,
so it's funny,
she's
Mackenzie.
moderately,
Okay.
you know, and it's crazy the difference between girls and boys with autism.
So this is going to be interesting to, you know, part of the sort of design problem on the back end is, you know, taste, because that's a problem for you guys on the
Yeah.
front end. So, you know, we've sort of landed on and by the way, this is product, you know, I'm horrible at doing this, but it's Focus, so, and Focus Plus, and you can get them on the TrueMedx website. But the part of the problem is, and so Mackenzie is on Focus Plus and Kerrigan is on Focus Plus. That has the you know, CBD medicine package, if you will, in it, but it also has a herbal package in it that is doing the same thing. So that's kind of an enhanced product. The problem is it really doesn't taste good. Are they tolerant
She
pretty
does pretty well with it.
If you like sunflower seeds, you're gonna like
Kerrigan does
it.
not like the taste. But she prefers the feeling of
Yes,
being
that's
happy
what I'm
and
saying.
being
Like I think
she's
Mackenzie.
fine with it because she's noticing, you know.
Yes, and so
The
the
result.
taste. So, but the Focus, the regular Focus doesn't taste like that. And
Yeah.
Kaden does really good with
Yeah.
that. It's the extras, but Mackenzie, she even asked for her CBD and stuff. And
Nice.
And
Okay.
you know, her response, her thing is getting her out of that loop, that constant repeating and
Yep.
repetitiveness.
Yep.
And she's been doing so good with her asking questions, responding back.
Like she came downstairs the other day and she's like, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, nothing. What are you doing?
Like, she does. So she's just it's personality.
Yeah.
It comes
And
through.
see, because she does a lot of scripting.
She does.
And so to see her break out of that and like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Or like
Mhm.
she told Matt, I've seen her tell Maddie at least 3 times, I want my CBD.
Wow.
Yeah.
Time for my CBD, Mom.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
And
like
I
she
think
knows.
She'll
she
feel
knows,
it.
she feels the difference.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it makes her feel better.
That's really cool. That's really good. That's cool.
But I'm
Oh, and I was just gonna say, like on so Focus Plus, it has the extra stuff in it. It tastes a little like, I would say, sunflowery kind of
yeah, I
seed.
tried it.
And
Yeah.
and again, it works for me. I take the product. And if you are, let's say, you're not on the spectrum, if the product is still,
Oh,
when
yeah,
you
like-
take this product, whoop,
Yeah.
you'll get
Oh,
dialed right in.
I've tried. It's too much for me on that. That's why I just like the energy and wellness stuff and
Yeah.
the different things like that. But you know, for what they're dealing with,
Yeah.
it's definitely.
Yeah. But most of the more severe are on just the Focus, and that doesn't taste as bad and all that, because it's hard to obviously get that going. So what are we going to do our next show?
I don't know. I think once a month is going to be really good, and then I think if anybody wants something that they want to ask about or wants us to talk about, that'd be great, because it's not just about our kids.
Yeah.
Like our kids are what we live with. That's what we talk about, because we're their moms.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be good to bring other people on that are using Focus and highlight them and talk about what's going on with their children, and not just that, but things outside of autism, like the other, disabilities. There's a
Yeah.
lot going on with children in this state
Well,
that doesn't get addressed and talked about.
Yeah. and Gervais, is a very, similar kind of situation and
Yep.
has been addressed, with cannabis and is, potentially, like I said, we can go at these voltage gated.
Well, and then we had somebody reach out and she had Hashimoto's or
Yeah.
what that was.
Yeah, and so I think this
Yes.
would work really good. And if we want to have some of those people on as they're kind of, getting results and all that, or tell the stories, or I don't know, you guys drive, but
I
we
think
want to
really
help.
exciting, yeah.
We want to help support, everything that you're doing. And,
Definitely talk some science.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's always fun.
I think, I'm really excited for you guys, for the introduction of the THC and stuff like that with it. And I think that's really gonna help some other things, because it's not like the autism is, everything's fixed and it's great.
Right.
We still have other issues.
Absolutely.
I have noticed lately now that he's balanced out with the CBD, the CBG and stuff, I am gonna need to add more THC during the day because his OCD is starting to pick up a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's a
Yeah.
constant,
Yeah. And that would, it's gonna,
assessment.
and it's going to be interesting because if you can kind of think about this as developmentally, if you will.
Yeah.
There's a ladder, right? So it, being able to do like toileting, would be on the
Mhm.
ladder.
Yeah.
As you sort of progress up, to be, being able to manage your impulses or things like that, right? But there's a sort of a ladder. My guess is, that we're going to start getting them up the ladder, and as we get them up the ladder, other kind of new things
Yeah.
like OCD,
Yeah.
and that would make a lot of sense because they're more stimulated than they've ever been. So, yeah,
Our brains are waking up.
their brains are waking up.
Yeah.
So, you want to leave it there?
Yeah, I think we're
Okay.
good.
All right. Well, this is cool. So I guess I got to drive that situation. So
Thanks for watching.
thank you guys. Thank everybody for watching. Leave comments if you think this was good. Let us
If you have
know.
any questions, leave
Questions,
comments.
absolutely.
Try to answer everything.
Yep.
Check out OKannamoms.
Check out OKannamoms.
TrueMedx.
Autism
GnuPharma.
Speaks. We're going to talk to you guys because we need to get you involved here, and we got some good things going. So let's get it on.